Hey everybody, what's going on? Luke Marino here, East Partnership. Going to do a little sudden or impromptu Life Cycles Live this Monday. I think it's the 12th. Yeah, the 12th of July. And I'm trying to keep the standard platform where I do one session a week with a guest, and that will occur this Wednesday. And we'll have Rob Kolarowski on this Wednesday. Rob, if you're already tuned in, I'm looking forward to our session this week. We're going to catch up with Rob and talk about all kinds of cool stuff. I'll talk about that more toward the end of this session because I did want to give some people a chance to get on before I hyped up the episode with Rob that's coming up this week. Yeah, I just want to catch up with everyone, see how your week is going. So please jump in the chat and feel free to send comments in as I go through a little bit of discussion. I normally keep my solo episodes to about 30 minutes, unless we get a really great conversation going. In that case, I'll let it go longer, but I'm definitely not here to just talk and bore people. So get in the chat and let's interact a bit. Anyways, as far as today goes, I had a few things I wanted to touch on, one of which is a topic from a few weeks ago about trade schools. And obviously, this is a bigger topic than just trade schools. It's about industry. It's about what people want to do with their lives. It's about entering the market either as an entry level professional or even a mid career professional, and trying to determine a next move, a next phase, even sometimes a whole new career. And I've been writing about this a bit recently, and we'll talk about where that's going in some other future episode. But it's just kind of resounded with me, not only because of the opportunities that are out there for people, and I hear a lot from people in the maintenance and reliability community that are current technicians, maybe even some junior planners that are like, hey, I want to go somewhere I'm not, right? I want to go further in my career. We do some basic maintenance functions and maintenance planning, but I want to take it to the next level. I want to get more into the nitty gritty of RCM, or we need more reliability focused maintenance in our organization, or hey, we really want to start taking advantage of some more of this life cycle and logistics type work that you talk about. Where do we start? Okay. And so to me, the conversations kind of morph together a bit, right? They become very similar, because ultimately what you're talking about is professional development and choices for people that are trying to either start a new career or start a new program in an existing career. And I think there's a few general things you have to take into account when you're doing that. One is that there's a lot of really good free resources out there, right? And I actually had a great conversation over LinkedIn messaging with Mohammed yesterday. Mohammed, if you watch this, or if you're watching this, thanks for the conversation yesterday. It was fantastic, and we shared a lot of dialogue about all the great stuff that's out there right now to help people in industry. And then the next thing we usually think about is, okay, well, if I have to invest some money in this, what does that look like? And there are so many different tiers of expense there, right? And you could start out with like a membership in a low-cost program. Could be a training program, could be a membership to a professional society like the Society of Maintenance and Reliability Professionals, or the Project Management Institute, or any of these professional organizations that exist to support an entire discipline or industry. And those can be really, really, really valuable memberships if you use the resources that are provided to you by those memberships. So I'm guilty of not using all the great stuff that SMRP offers, and PMI as well, even though I'm a member of both communities. I use what I need when I need it, right? But if I was younger in my career and I was really just trying to get as much knowledge and as much resource as possible, those places are gold mines for information. So if you're not already out there as a member of SMRP or a member of PMI, or maybe in COSI, the International Council on Systems Engineering, then those are great options for people looking for some low-cost resources that are just, these organizations are constantly pulling people in to write articles, publish books, do all these things, webinars, everything, because they're trying to attract the largest audience they can to these organizations in hopes that they can engage industry in a larger number. So they're just ripe for sharing, and so they're a fantastic resource for knowledge. The other is obviously books, right? We talk about books all the time. For those that are watching this that are heavily involved in the maintenance and reliability profession, I'm not going to go through a list of all the books that you already know exist. Many of them are back here on this shelf. Where is it? Over there, right? And I'm always hyping up my friends, books that they've written. So I won't beat you guys over the brow with that again today. I do that because they're great books, by the way, not just because I know the people that wrote them. But you may be asking, well, how do I get smarter on some of this other stuff you talk about, dude? The maintenance task analysis, the level of repair analysis, logistics engineering, that kind of stuff. So I do want to share a couple of titles with you from that industry. Stand by. Okay, I'm back. All right. So the absolute Bible of logistics engineering and management is written by Benjamin Blanchard. This is the 6th edition. It's the most recent. Dr. Blanchard is no longer with us. He will not be writing a 7th edition. If there is a 7th edition, it will be published by, I guess, whoever published this. Who is this? Pearson, Prentice Hall. And it is a textbook. This was in my graduate program at George Washington. And 9 out of the 10 people that were in that class, would have complained about this book. Oh, there's too much. Oh, it's not exactly what I needed. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, this is perfect. I wish they issued one of these to every junior officer that went into naval engineering in the Coast Guard, because so much of what we do to sustain complex assets is classified as logistics engineering and management. Now, logistics is not transportation, packaging, and handling, all that stuff on its own. Logistics engineering and management is the whole shebang. It includes reliability and maintenance. Now, the reliability part crosses between engineering and logistics engineering, like more traditional engineering, like design engineering type functions. But in the world that I work in, which is predominantly defense, logistics engineering is where the reliability and maintenance planning and execution and analysis happens. So if you're in maintenance and reliability, you may not even be aware of it, but you are involved in what the Department of Defense calls logistics engineering and management. And Ben Blanchard's book is fantastic. Now, you may find wild fluctuations in price with this textbook. Everything from $60, $70, $80 up to the hundreds, because it goes by demand. So you may, this is at least what I've experienced in the past, and you can tell I do a little bit of reading with all the little tabs and stuff, right? But the reason why you might find that is because as colleges either adopt or do not adopt this textbook, the availability and supply and demand goes up and down. So if you can't find it at the price you want, just be patient, try another couple months later. Another one is written by Mr. James Jones. And Mr. James Jones is still running around there. He's a consultant. He does training. He is a member of the CLEP, the same group I work with, right? So, which is the Council of Logistics Engineering Professionals, and we've got an awesome site. And he wrote Integrated Logistics Support Handbook. Now, this is another textbook style book. It's fantastic. This is published by Sole Press, SOLE, and that's a McGraw-Hill publication. And great book. He actually does some pretty cool stuff with level of repair analysis calculations to show the actual calcs in action. So if you're like me and you are into this kind of thing, then this is a good resource. Why am I even showing you this part? Well, because the handbooks that were published for level of repair analysis did not do a good job with that. My camera's freaking out because I held up a white piece of paper. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. So yes, the Integrated Logistics Support Handbook by James Jones, 3rd edition, is a fantastic resource. Okay. Now, a third one is Quantitative Measurements of Logistics, or for Logistics. This is by Mr. Philip Frone. Philip is very communicative. If you email him, you can find him here on LinkedIn. And his book is great because it takes all kinds of quantitative measurements that are involved in the logistics engineering world and puts them in one book. Now, I'll give you some examples. He's got everything from acceptance sampling, availability calculations, break-even analysis, combinatorial analysis and probability, depreciation methods, forecasting methods, inventory computation, learning curves, life cycle costs, logistics support analysis computations, maintainability calcs, maintenance management, maintenance time management, managerial accounting, meantime allocations and predictions, PERT, which is project evaluation and review techniques for those that aren't familiar with PERT, CMP comps, which is critical path methodology for project management, earned value analysis, provisioning, quality controls, queuing, reliability comps, repair level analysis, spare parts, statistics, time value, money comps. So really, he packed a whole bunch in this book. And like I said before, Mr. Frone and I have talked quite frequently over email, and he is very willing to share and interact, and just has a genuine passion for what he does. And you can check out the Council of Logistics Engineering Professionals for more information on subjects in that realm. That's kind of where I live most of my time, is in logistics engineering. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk today, is because there's just not a lot of awareness of what that means. So you'll hear me talking about maintenance task analysis. You'll hear me talking about level of repair analysis. You see the courses that we offer on those topics at eastpartnership.org. And the reason why I'm pushing those things is because they've got so much value for people that own, complex assets and have assets that have substantial criticality, meaning they're very important, whether it be monetarily, they cost a lot of money and you need to extract a lot of value from them. They interrupt other value producing functions or assets, like in a manufacturing plant, or they have something to do with safety. Or they could have something to do with the defense and of the country. So these are points of criticality that are demand rigor, right? You have to apply sufficient rigor when determining how to maintain these things. You don't just buy them, stick them in there, and then just kind of play it by ear and see how things go. It's not a very wise investment with these things. By the way, most of these assets in this world of work are very expensive, right? They can range in cost from a few $1,000s to billions. So you've got to, especially as systems of systems and complex assets that contain dozens of systems, complex systems. The more complexity and the more criticality, the more important it is that you do this work. So why bring the two worlds together? Why say, well, if it's good enough for the Department of Defense and all this rigor, and it's good enough for industry, and they've got a bottom line and they're responsible for producing revenue and profit? Well, I always was frustrated with the fact that the Department of Defense and DHS type world, we weren't responsible for generating a profit. Our survival wasn't based on whether we could produce enough income that year to survive. That's just not the way it works, right? It's governmental. And that's a great thing for that particular focus. However, it does take the edge off of certain perspectives and functions within the organization, meaning everyone from the bottom up isn't focused on pricing or saving, cutting costs for the sake of retaining a certain amount of profit at the end of the year for the company, or generating a certain amount of revenue, or producing a certain amount of product, like manufacturing. We didn't have that focus. We were focused on mission execution. We were focused on delivering assets to the service, then taking those assets, putting them into service, and using them in defense of the country, or using them to enhance security, or using them for other critical functions like search and rescue, and things for the general public that are, obviously critical functions for the country, but don't necessarily have the same, I guess you could say, sales point. We're not looking at how we're going to market and sell these assets. We're not looking at producing a certain number for sales. We're looking at producing a certain amount to optimize availability and support the missions of the country. So it's very similar, but it's very different, right? Because that subtle shift in perspective takes your brain away from certain things. And it says, okay, well, why am I so focused on reliability? Well, I'm really focused on reliability because I need to reduce my sustainment impacts, right? When the asset's in service, I need to reduce the cost of sustaining that asset, because that's a responsibility we have to the taxpayer, right? We don't want to invest in an asset and just blindly say, well, it'll cost us whatever it costs us to maintain it. We also don't want to design something that could have been designed better and could have saved us that sustainment cost down the road. It's not just about that cost. It's about optimizing availability. We have to deliver as much function as we possibly can, because we do not have an unlimited budget. We do not have the ability to just turn out one of these assets quickly. It'll take us years to build a submarine. It'll take us years to build a ship. It'll take us forever to build this plane or whatever. And so there's a tremendous amount of money and energy put into an acquisition of an asset of that caliber. And so you go through this work to make sure that you create the great, the most reliable and available asset you possibly can, and that you can reduce the cost of ownership across the life cycle so that you're responsibly managing the money, but also reducing your headache for sustaining that asset, right? You don't have to do as much maintenance. You don't have as much corrective. You're moving away from that reactive culture toward that more proactive culture from day one when you're designing that asset with reliability and maintainability in mind. Okay. So that's the big push there, right? So that's one of the reasons why doing things like maintenance task analysis, where you're decomposing the steps, you're finding out everything you're going to need, every resource, every single thing you're going to need to execute that maintenance, and how much time it's going to take, and by step, by the way, the duration of each individual step, and the skill levels, training demands, all that stuff. There's a reason why you try and capture all that when you're doing the maintenance task analysis. And then there's a reason why subsequently you're going to do other analysis to improve and optimize the provisioning and supply chain work, right, around that asset's demands. And you're also going to perform things like level of repair analysis, where you're figuring out the most economically and operationally feasible solution for repair, right? So it's not just about money, and it's not just about ease of operation and turnaround. It's got to be a balance. So that's why we do that great work. Now, we're having the same problem in logistics engineering that everyone else is having, where we can't get people in the front door to do this work. Part of it's our own problem. We're looking for people with experience predominantly, because we need to hire an analyst, and an analyst needs to know what they're looking at. They need to have experience doing the work, or at least experience maintaining the assets, doing the reliability, doing the supply chain support, whatever the case is. Developing logistics tech data and packages of tech manuals and training and manpower analysis and all that stuff that goes into it. So we have the same thirst for talent and workforce that everyone else does. And so it's really kind of put me back a bit and said, well, what is the problem? Why do we have a problem getting people in this industry? Well, part of it is just awareness, right? Most people are like, what the heck's logistics engineering and management? The second part is when they are aware, they're like, oh, well, I've already been doing this for 15 years or 10 years or 20, 30 years over here, and I'm not going to shift now, right? Part of it's I don't want to live where those jobs are, or I don't want to work with that, I don't, in the government, or whatever the case is. So we've got our challenges just like everyone else does. But when I really boil it down, when we all look at what's common to our problem, it's not necessarily that you don't know what logistics engineering is, or that Joe Schmo graduating high school is unaware of how important welders are in industry right now, or that Sally Coastie, who's going to be a Coast Guard enlisted member in 2 years, is graduating high school and hasn't even looked at the Coast Guard as a viable option. Or that so-and-so's grandparents told them never join the Air Force and never join the military. And so they've never looked at those options, but it may be the best thing for that person right now. And of course, there's the conversation around college. So where does all this intersect? Well, it starts to intersect when people are trying to make decisions about, what to do with their lives after high school, or while they're in college, or after they've graduated college, or let's say they didn't go to college. They didn't decide what they wanted to do right when they left high school. They took a couple years, did some things, and now they're trying to figure out where they really want to go, because they're getting into their mid to late 20s, maybe even in their 30s, and they're like, all right, it's time to nail something down and start moving down a career path. So we have to get smart about these decisions, and it's not easy, because when you're really young and you're coming out of high school, maybe people have been telling you all your whole life that, the best thing for you to do is to go to college, but the money doesn't seem like it's going to happen, or you're not willing to take on the debt, or, whatever the case is. I mean, that's where I was. When I graduated high school, I didn't have the money to go to college. It was kind of out of my mind. I was like, that's not really the best option for me, because I can't possibly afford it, and I can't possibly afford to pay it back. And to be honest with you, spending 4 to 8 more years in school seemed like the last thing I wanted to do. It was like right behind working in an office. Neither of those two seemed very appealing to me at that point in my life. Like I was just too much energy, too much focus on things. I just could not imagine sitting behind a desk all day. That wasn't going to work for me. I also was thinking, well, why would I possibly go to school and rack up all this debt? I don't even know if I can get the loans. And even if I did get the loans, how long is it going to take me to pay them back? And what kind of quality of life am I going to have after that? And at 18, 19, 20 years old, you're just like, I can only think like 10 feet ahead. I can't go that deep, right? So it becomes problematic, right? You also feel the pressure of trying to make a decision that's going to, it's almost like people are asking you, what are you going to do for the next 60 to 80 years? Like, how can you possibly ask me that question? I don't want that responsibility of making that decision right now. I don't know how to, right? You're just not there. And so I think part of the message has to be that we have to start teaching people that there isn't just one path, that they're not just constrained to one thing, that they can choose multiple things. They can do something for a few years and then shift gears. That's okay. You can go to a trade school, be a tradesman, go work as a welder or electrician or whatever. Do that for a couple of years. And then when you've got some money saved up and you've got your feet planted and you've had a chance to test that industry, if you like it, you stay. And if you don't, well, you've got better footing now to shift to something that's more desirable for you. And it's okay to do that. And by the way, if you ever need to come back to it, you've got a skill set and a trade you can fall back on. And that is something that my dad taught me. My grandfather was a great example of that. These men had a trade that no matter what they did in life, they could fall back on it. They had something to fall back on if the thing they were doing didn't work out. They were multifaceted. They were dynamic. They could do things that were outside of this one specific realm. So that really resonated with me. It was kind of a subconscious learning growing up and observing that and then implementing it myself. And if any of you guys out there watching this have had something similar to that and you want to share it, man, rock and roll, let's talk about it. But I think it's really important that we tell the people that we're taking care of, that we're trying to nurture, that they've got so many options, they shouldn't be pressured to try and figure everything out today. We don't do that with them once they're at work. We don't expect entry-level trades or entry-level professionals, a brand new engineer or a brand new doctor to be the world's best surgeon or, the world's designing the next greatest thing. That's not realistic. We expect them to be what they are. And that's an entry level professional that's getting their feet under them. I don't expect, when I was a diesel mechanic, I didn't expect the recent graduate from the machinery technician school that the Coast Guard had to come in and know how to overhaul any of our engines. As a matter of fact, it would have scared the hell out of me if they said they were going to go do that, right? I didn't expect that of them. So we have to start pushing that, I think, and that'll get more people involved, I think, in trades, because I think one of the things that's pulling people away from trades is not only is the whole, last dozen or so, or the last few decades, people, oh, we've been told we have to go to college. Yeah, I get that. That's not the only thing. Though, when you look at the human psyche, that is not the only thing. Part of it is some of these folks think that whatever they choose, they're going to have to do for a long time. And that kind of makes them hesitant to choose something that they initially don't think is the right full life experience for them. They look at going into a trade and saying, well, man, welding, am I going to want to be a welder when I'm 70 years old? 60 years old, 50? That sounds like it's going to be really hard on me. Yeah, it probably would be if you did it that long. But you don't have to if you don't want to. You could do that for the next 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, whatever, and be super glad you did and contribute to the industry and contribute to society and your local community and do really cool things and learn a really cool art and trade. And then if you decide to shift gears, but you'll have made some good money. You'll have had a good, meaningful job. You'll have contributed. You'll have done something good. You'll produce something of value for people. And it's not just, did you feel good about yourself at the end of the day? It's, you're giving and when you exercise a trade like that in a way that a lot of people need those services. I remember doing part-time mechanic work. It was not, I was quickly convinced I didn't want to keep doing that for very long because I was just exhausted. And, in the middle of the winter, laying on your back on concrete, trying to fix someone's car is not exactly the most fun thing in the world. And, as you start to get a little bit more senior and you're making a little bit more money, the desire to do that is less and less. But, it doesn't mean that I still to this day didn't learn something from that. And man, I really helped some people out that either couldn't afford, to take their car in somewhere and wait 2 weeks for it or a week for it to come back, or the mechanics that where they would have taken it to would have charged them more than I did, or they just didn't trust the people that they didn't know, whatever it was, whatever the reason they asked me to do it, I was giving them something that they needed, and it was good, honest work, and it meant something, right? And that to me is super valuable. So if you're in a position to be able to counsel and mentor other people down the path, and you say, look, this is really good stuff you can do, and it's not just great for you, it's great for other people, and it has a lot of value, then that's super cool, right? And then, of course, you've got the whole, well, you think about all the money you could save doing this kind of work yourself in the future. Right? Like, I have saved a tremendous amount of money between me and my family. If I've had to do something, particularly my pops, hey, pops, you know how to do this? Yeah, I know how to do that. Let's do that. All right. And, retroactively look back and go, man, that would have cost me a fortune if I'd had to pay for that. Right. All right. So that's the big push for like the trade side of it. With the college side, it's not college good, college bad. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disagree with anyone who thinks it's that like black and white. It is not that black and white. There is nothing wrong with encouraging a young person to go to college. If you think colleges are ruining everything, then you don't know what's going on in colleges. Okay? And yes, there are tons of problems at colleges, just like there are tons of problems at other places. But there is no room for that crap in most of your real professions, education programs. Okay, they're not, when you're going to engineering or medical, it's engineering and medical all day. That's all you do. That's like you're surrounded in just heavy immersion in these professions. You would not want to hire an engineer, a lawyer, or a doctor who didn't go to one of those programs and graduate. You wouldn't. Okay, so you have to be supportive of those programs for those types of people. That is different than going to school and studying, philosophy, which is wildly interesting to me, but is not going to guarantee me a great paying job when I graduate from college. It's just not, right? So, reverse engineer it a little bit. Hey, what are you going to do with that education? I had a friend whose son went and wanted to go into writing. He wanted to be a writer. I said, well, then what are you going to college for? You can write now. Well, I need these classes and this now. I want to get a degree. I want to go work for a publishing company or for a newspaper or for a magazine. Or okay, all right. And his dad was like, man, I'm nervous about this because what if it doesn't work out the way he thinks it does? And there's really not a lot of job availability out there for him. Well, as long as he's aware of that risk, and if this is something he's really passionate about, then he's setting himself up for realistic expectations. To set him up for unrealistic expectations, that to me is the problem. If you promise somebody, oh, you should go to school and seek your passion, and they do that, and they go study, like I would have loved to, go study classical guitar, right? Go do that. And then they graduate, and that's it. That's okay. If that's what they wanted to do, if that whole experience was worth it to them, that's fine. However, they can't turn around and say, oh, I can't get a job. It's the problem of society. Oh, I can't get a job. It's a problem with the universities. Oh, I can't get a job. It's a problem with the arts. No, you knew that going into this. You decided to invest the money. You decided to invest the time. And you decided to invest your energy in that pursuit, knowing that was the significant risk. And dude, you made decisions, right? That's okay. That's okay. Now, as long as they're making it fully informed decision. But when we tell half truths or push someone down the wrong path, for whatever reason, that's a problem. Just going to the college for the sake of going to the college, that's not going to work. Going to George Washington because your parents and your grandparents and their parents went to George Washington. That doesn't make any sense to me, right? Where's the logic in that besides, honoring tradition? What are you going to do with that education? You're going to school for a reason. It's not to honor tradition. You're going to school primarily to set yourself up with a career. So what career are you setting yourself up for? That's where the conversation needs to go, whether it be trade school, whether it be college, whether it be the military, whatever. Now, I've done trade school, college, and the military. Okay. And I'm out in the civilian sector now, working with a civilian company that supports the government, missions. And I'm happy with that. I'm good with it. I'm in a great place. I'm more than happy with it. I'm ecstatic with it because I feel like I've got the best of both worlds. But I'd be a complete hypocrite if I told you that college is the worst thing for you. Man, I got a doctorate. Or I'd be a complete hypocrite if I told you you should only go to college. Going to a trade school is not a good use of your skills. Dude, some of the best learning I had was as a tradesman. Period. Hands down. Made me a better college student, made me a better engineer, made me a better leader and manager. All of that. There's value in all of it if you do it for the right reasons and you're pointed down the right path. Now, this is probably not going to resonate with too many of the more experienced people in my network. There may be, one person watching this. There may be 100 people. I don't know. I can't tell. But if it doesn't necessarily resonate with you, find a way to digest it and pass it on to someone that it could resonate with, someone that could help, especially if you're an experienced person in my network, because people are looking to you for mentorship. People are looking to you to be the voice of reason, to make solid recommendations for them, especially if you're you're a consultant, right? Like we're in the consulting space, man. People hire consultants to help them make decisions, to help them build programs, to help them sustain successes. If you're in consulting and you can't take the time to mentor someone through some pretty basic career decisions, but they're significantly important, then you need to take a moment to reflect because that's a significant part of what we do, right? That's a big part of what we do. Okay, so big takeaways. There are so many different options, pros and cons to each of them. More experienced people in the network, you should be out mentoring many of the younger workforce on this. Make no assumptions about what they want to do. Make no assumptions about what they're capable of. Make no assumptions about what you think is best for them, right? In regards to what, that's what I did. No, man, they're a different person. It's a multivariate analysis, calculation, whatever you want to call it. There are so many factors involving someone else's life that you didn't have in your particular situation. And that's perfectly fine. Be aware of that, inform them of that, tell them to look at the big picture, go with the basic stuff, line down the middle of a piece of paper, pros and cons, look at options. Don't just tell someone, hey, you can go to college and get money. That's not that's not the whole thing. How do they get that money? How are they going to fund this education? Should they work part-time and do it? Should they go to school full-time? Like you got to take them through the next step, help them out. The trade school opportunities that are out there. We complain about people not wanting to go to trade school. Well, again, they've been told they have to do something else. Well, when was the last time you actually took trade school documentation or websites or whatever, representatives, anything, and connected that person with them and said, look, so a friend of mine, Dave Gillespie, who I talked about in my last episode about this topic, owns the Virginia Technical Academy. He has employers lined up, over 500 jobs available for people graduating from that program, and he can't get enough students. Can't get enough students. There are grants, there are loans, there are all kinds of scholarships available. The companies don't want to invest in funding these people because they're afraid they'll leave as soon as they get trained or soon after. I get it. But that to me is like you didn't think past step 1 or 2 as a company. Who says you can't mentor? You can't actively mentor these people. It doesn't take a tremendous amount of investment financially. Who says you can't set up employment contracts? Who says you can't set up other options with the school where you help the school, you sponsor the school, you have a great presence. Oh, and by the way, you become the employer of choice for people leaving that school. You're competing with all these other companies for jobs. Well, out-compete them for the people. Don't just out-compete them for the products that you sell. Out-compete them as a place to work. Most of the people say, "Oh, I'm worried about that stuff." That's because they're losing people left and right to other companies that are offering something better, whether it be a better culture, better pay, whatever. Not saying you could cover all the bases by yourself in one shot, but what I'm saying is you should be concentrated on messaging why you're the employer of choice, and you should be honest about it. And you can show them that, hey, we're the place you want to be. We're the place you want to be. Now, I've worked for many companies. I've worked for many different military services at this point, and I can tell you the places I really want to be and the places that I don't. Okay. And these students can get exposure to that in those programs. You could be having them on an internship where maybe you're not funding, their education, but you're funding their education and experience through an internship with the school. You could just be sponsoring events at the schools. But if you think you're just going to do nothing and then sit around and wait for these kids to fall out of these schools, and you're doing nothing to promote people getting into those schools, how are you really solving the root problem of getting enough students into the school and then into your organization? All right? Better start doing something different, because we're not going to fix this by just, A, talking about it like I'm doing right now, and B, not investing. We have to invest. Now, if you're expecting the government to make that investment for you writ large, it's not going to work. If you're expecting the state and the local government to make that happen for you, it's not going to be enough. You have to be proactive. You just have to. Okay. Enough ranting, enough complaining, all that stuff. What's coming up? Well, I've got Rob on Wednesday. Rob Kowarowski is going to come on Wednesday. We're going to talk about the Leadership Launchpad. We're going to talk about everything Rob's been doing for the last year. I want to learn from him about what he's learned from working with these different leaders in industry, people that are getting into leadership, people that have been leaders in organizations. I want to learn from Rob about what his path has been like as an entrepreneur, going down a different track this last year. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. So definitely be there. As everyone here knows, Rob's fantastic. And then 2 weeks after that, we're moving the date from the 21st to the 28th. We're going to have Sonia Mathur on, and we're going to talk with Sonia about all kinds of cool stuff. We're going to talk about women in STEM. We're going to talk about reliability, lubrication. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We're going to be talking about all kinds of cool stuff she's got going on. There's a virtual event coming up soon that she's going to expand on. I don't want to ruin the party just yet. I'll let her make that announcement herself and fill us in on that. But it's going to be super cool. That's going to be the 28th. That's a Wednesday. It's going to be 4 p.m. And so please stay in touch with us. We've got all kinds of people lined up through July, August, and September. And if you're interested in being a guest here on Life Cycles Live, sharing something about what you're passionate about that has something to do with maintenance, reliability, asset management, whatever, life cycle management, you're always welcome. Reach out to me at lucas@eastpartnership.org or hit me up here on either LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever you're watching this. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can DM me on LinkedIn, and we'll get you set up. And again, just keep getting out there, keep mentoring each other, keep sharing. There's so much out there that we can do to share knowledge and resources. It's not just I'm not a big sales guy. I'm not doing this just to pitch East Partnership and the classes that we've got there that are fantastic. I really genuinely want to contribute to help solve some of these issues. So if you've got some type of initiative going on, you need to get it elevated, you think it's worth talking about, let me know about it. We'll talk about it. And maybe we can get a little bit more awareness of it. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and log off here in just a minute. Anyone got anything you want to throw in the chat? Go for it. Last few minutes here, I just want to let you guys know that that we've got a ton of great stuff coming to East Partnership. We've got more classes, if you can imagine, from Suzanne Greenman at the Greenman Asset Management Academy. She's been working diligently to bring more content to the site, and her Asset Management 101 course is just amazing. 103, which is Asset Information Management, is fantastic. We've got Jesus Cifuentes RCM Basic course, RCMR, which is re-engineered. And we've got that in English and Spanish, right? So come check that out if you're interested in setting up a class for your organization, or you're just interested in joining a class yourself, let me know. And I've got our affiliate partners over at PM ProLearn for project management. Dude, they're teaching Agile. They're teaching the PMP prep courses. They're teaching everything. So if you need, Scrum Master training, you need PMI's ACP Agile certification training, you need PMI or a PMP prep course, PM Pro Learn's the way to go. Our partners over at RCI, the Reliability Center Inc., helping us out with getting root cause analysis training, PROACT, the PROACT methodology, talking about their easy RCA programming, which is fantastic. We've just got so much going on, and we want East to be a hub for all that stuff. Again, it's not about pitching; it's about sharing. So if you want to learn more about those topics, go on, check us out at eastpartnership.org, and then of course follow us on LinkedIn, right there, and we've got our channel here on YouTube for those that want to come back and watch later, and you're not watching on LinkedIn. And don't miss Rob next Wednesday. It's going to be fantastic. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and shut down. You guys have a fantastic rest of your evening. I will see you Wednesday.